Okay, welcome back. We are ACI Course 10, Class 8. Ooh. September 26, 2025. Let's gather our minds here as we usually do. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom. And see them there with you just by way of your thinking of them. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you, smiling at you with their holy great compassion. Their wisdom radiating from them, that beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize how the worldly ways we try to help fall short. How wonderful it will be when we can also help them in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. Deep down, we know this is possible. Learning about karma and emptiness, we glimpse how it's possible. And so I invite you to grow that wish into a longing. And that longing into an intention. And with that intention, turn your mind back to your precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know. What we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please, please teach me that. Show me that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the pure world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands, and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer to make our promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with the blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings totally awaken for the benefit of every single other. All right, last class, we learned about those 6 main mental afflictions, the 6th one of which has 5 versions of it. So you could make the case for there being 10 main mental afflictions. Ignorant liking, ignorant disliking, pride, ignorance, but meaning ignorance of karma and past and future lives, and doubt, and that wrong view that had those 5 versions. And we learned that those mental afflictions, their function is to upset us. Not like they're hanging out over here. How can I upset Sarani today? But when they come up in our mind, for them to come up, there's a mistake going on, and it leaves us not peaceful. And we learned that underneath all of those is that misunderstanding, the ignorance itself of where things really come from, how their identities, their qualities are created by our own behavior. And that until we get rid of that misunderstanding, we really won't be able to totally clear away these other 6. So out of those 6 come all the rest of the states of mind that upset us in any way, either by being the states of mind that we have during obvious suffering, the states of mind that we have during suffering of change, and the state of mind that we have during pervasive suffering, which is all the time. So they outline 20 secondary mental afflictions. Not that there's only 20. There's many more than that. But these are 20 that we could learn to identify and then work to stop acting from their impulse. So these 20, I'm going to give you the Tibetan for the good seeds. Nye Nyun, it's hard for me to say, Nye Nyun, it means the secondary mental afflictions. Nye Nyun. Usually when we say something is primary and something is secondary, it means the secondaries are less important. But here it doesn't mean that. These mental afflictions are just as serious, just as difficult to work with as the primary mental afflictions. What it means is that the secondary mental afflictions come out of one or more of the primary mental afflictions. What that means, if we don't have the primary mental afflictions, we won't have any of these secondary ones or any of the tertiary ones, or etc., all the way out to that 84,000 mental afflictions that make us up. So these 20 are not less important. They are more clues as to how and when we are under the influence of one or more of the primary mental afflictions. And of course, underneath all of them is the main mental affliction of the misunderstanding, where it's all coming from. So we'll get there. So let's go through these 20. Your homework will ask for any 6 of the 20. And Geshe-la said, pick your favorites, right? Meaning pick the ones you recognize in yourself, maybe. But you could also decide, I'm going to pick the ones for my homework that I don't recognize so much in myself. Because if they're the 20 secondary afflictions, I'm probably having them, even if I don't recognize it. So either way, however you want to choose the 6 for your homework, it's fine. So here we go. The first one, so not in order of importance or anything like that. Just of the 20, here's one of them. Drowa. Drowa means anger. And here it means those first few moments of anger. You're in a situation, what's happening is unpleasant, big unpleasant. We blame the other, and we have that feeling of, right? They need to stop that. The experience is me, other, interaction between. And in the interaction between is this unpleasant thing that they're doing that makes me feel so awful, that then triggers a willingness to act in some way that I believe is going to make them stop hurting me. It's that willingness to act whatever way is necessary that makes the mental affliction a mental affliction. Now, anger stems from ignorant dislike. Our ignorant dislike is they have caused this unpleasant feeling. It's the blame factor, which means I have to stop them from doing that in order to stop this unpleasant situation. That misunderstanding leads us to willing to hurt somebody, physically or verbally. Droa. Second one, kunzen. Kunzen means retaining anger over time. The anger festers. And, that the situation that brought up our anger, it's over and done with. But we're still holding on to it, either grossly or subtly. It's keeping us agitated. It's keeping us not liking or not trusting that other person, and maybe other people that are related to them. Anybody who likes them, I can't trust them either because they might act like that. All probably at a subtle level. We're holding on to this anger days, weeks, years, lifetimes. Maybe the person completely forgotten the situation, completely gone in their mind. But for us, Quinzin, it disturbs our peace of mind. It makes us willing to do some kind of deed that will come back to hurt us in our effort to set that situation right. Right? Deeply misunderstanding our world comes from ignorant disliking. Third one, sikpa. Sikpa means to burn. Literally, it means to burn. Here it refers to that burning irritation that's really pre-anger. It's that underlying annoyance. And I mean, I recognize now that I used to have that, and I didn't even recognize it. Like, I think it was related because I had chronic body pain, and just everything was hard. Everything hurt. And so anything that was harder yet was just like a reject, this underlying irritation that then made it so that if I stumbled over a rock, that dumb rock, or somebody cut me off in traffic, right? Because I already was on this level of being irritated. It leaves us on the edge and willing to say or do something harsh when you get pushed a little bit. Sikpa. Fourth one, namse, nampar tsewe. It's the word for malice. Malice means not just the willingness to hurt somebody, but on some level, we want to hurt them. For whatever reason, our judgment is they deserve to be hurt. Maybe we just wish it on them and never actually act. But it's that sense that it's okay to hurt somebody, they deserve it in some way. The next one is trakdok. Trakdok is jealousy. Jealousy is said to be a part of the main mental affliction, ignorant dislike, and it comes out of the secondary mental affliction of anger, which is curious. No, we don't think of jealousy as an angry feeling. It more feels, uncomfortable. We're hurt in some way by seeing somebody else's success. And it's an ugly, unpleasant feeling. And it tends to propel us, at least in thought, if not actual action, to 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 being willing to interfere with their happiness in some way. Like on a gross level, you like that boy. Somebody else likes that boy. You think, oh, she's prettier than me. He's for sure going to like her, not me. She's getting more attention. I'm going to do something to draw the attention towards me, right? Jealousy, when we're in ninth grade, acts like that, right? We interfere with their pleasure in some way, thinking we're going to get a good result. Ultimately, of course, we don't get a good result. Probably even in the moment, we may or may not get a good result. But the jealousy is actually coming out of this ignorant dislike of the other person's happiness, right? For a bodhisattva, it's like we've pledged to be the agent of others' happiness. Like that's the business we've gone into. And then to see somebody get a little bit of happiness and feel, yeah, right? That's anti-bodhisattva. And when we commit ourselves to the bodhisattva path, prepare yourself to recognize, oh my gosh, I really do have jealousy, right? Don't shame yourself. Don't put yourself down. Recognize we are ignorant humans, and it's a very powerful misunderstanding of where things come from. As if somehow someone else's happiness makes us unsafe. And it doesn't, of course. Traktok. Geshe-la pointed out that it's very common for jealousy to rear its ugly head when we are amongst a group of people studying the Dharma together. So in the olden days, we studied Dharma together in person, in groups. There were Dharma centers that you go to, and you're rubbing shoulders with people in your learning. And a lot of mental afflictions will come up if we're there long enough. And Geshe-la pointed out one of the things that comes up often is this jealousy between practitioners. Who gets the most time with the Lama? Who did the altar that way? It should have been done my way, right? All these judgments that cause trouble. He points out that when we gather in a group for a spiritual training and effort, there's so much virtue going on. And the demons don't like virtue. There's a part of our own makeup that is threatened by the goodness that we are doing as a result of what we're learning. And those demons don't go, oh, great, this is so fun. The demons go, I don't want any part of that, and interfere. And that brings up all of these situations that bring up the mental afflictions, and jealousy is one of them, the demon of jealousy. It's trying to split the Dharma brothers and sisters up. So that can happen in virtual groups as well, of course. Just not so likely as when people get together physically. Next one, gyu. Gyu means insincerity or falsity. It also means denial and dishonesty, but here in the sense of not admitting our own faults, even just to ourselves. This mental affliction isn't like we're having anger and we're refusing to admit we're angry. It would be like looking at these 20 and going through them and going, okay, no, I don't have that one. No, I don't have that one. No, I don't have that one. Like we really aren't willing to look deeply enough to admit, oh yeah, I really do get jealousy. I've been saying, oh, it's just my perfectionist nature, and so I criticize everything. And I never looked at it deeply enough to say, well, the reason I do that is to protect myself from being jealous, because I don't think I'm a jealous person, right? So I can't be jealous because do you see? It's a block to admitting something that we will need to change. And the result is that it blocks us from receiving knowledge, new knowledge. If we don't see that we have a problem with jealousy and we hear a teaching about how to overcome jealousy, we'll hear the words, but we won't hear the meaning because we don't need it. Do you see? So it's this big blocker, this mental affliction called gyu. The next one, yoa. This one's pretense. Pretense means we put on these good qualities that we don't really have. But it's kind of funny. If you can put them on, then right, you do have them. You have them to be able to put on if you truly behave from them. What makes the pretense a mental affliction pretense is that we are doing this in order to get some kind of benefit from somebody. So we're putting on this pretense in order to get somebody's honor, right? In the olden monk days, you'd put on this pretense before your supporter in order to get them to support you more. There's a story about this practitioner his habit was to let his altar get sort of messy and dusty. And he learned that one of his main sponsors was going to come to visit him personally. So he thought, oh, I'll clean my altar all up so it looks really, really nice so I can impress them. And he did. And then very shortly before the sponsor got there, it occurred to him, oh man, I'm being hypocritical, right? I'm putting on pretense. I can't do that. So he threw dirt all over his altar. Like it looked worse than it would have if he had just left it. And somewhere far away, some practitioner with clairvoyance saw the guy do that. And he goes, wow, a great virtue has just been done. Not that the guy threw dirt on his altar, not that, but the fact that the practitioner recognized in himself that he was putting on this pretense to impress his sponsor. And he refused to let himself do that. Pretense. There are lots of times that we need to put on a pretense, right? I've talked about those times when we put ourselves on our best behavior. And then when you're done with that, you can let your hair down and be the real you. Right? We're putting on a pretense in that situation, in it, right, for whatever motivation. Because we're with our family and we don't ever want everybody to fight. So I'll behave really well and not say what I really want to say. That's pretense in a way. Is it a mental affliction pretense? If our motivation is to keep peace in other people's minds. No, because it's not going to lead us to do something that hurts somebody. Now, you could make the case, in the long run, does it hurt somebody? To pretend we're better than we are in order to keep the peace. Right? In the long run, everything we do is harmful in some way until we've stopped our ignorance. So our underlying, how these states of mind lead us to behave is the factor that makes them mentally afflicted or not. Okay. The next one, Notsa Mepa. Notsa and the Tralya of Tral here, they are words we've come across before. Notsa and Tralya, when we were learning about vows, when we were learning about our Bodhisattva vows, and I think when we were learning about how karma works. Notsa, it is the word for shame, but shame not in the sense of, oh, I'm ashamed of myself, I'm so bad, I can't do anything good, not like that. But shame in the sense of a healthy sense of self-conscientiousness. Conscientiousness maybe is a more helpful word, because shame has this negative connotation. Notsa is this healthy sense of avoiding a behavior that will do harm to who? To me, when its result comes back, which means to somebody else as the cause. So the refusal to do harm, even if nobody but me knows about it. In the privacy of your own mind, your own room, your own place, are we willing to do something that will come back to hurt us? Notsa is this sense that we use to make the determination, what behaviors do I do if I'm the only one that knows it? Notsa mepa means to not have that self-consideration, that self-conscientiousness. They call it shame. To not have this healthy sense of avoiding a harm, regardless of anybody else knowing about it, because what will that mental affliction lead us to doing? Anything we want at any time we want. Right? So powerful mental affliction. And it doesn't mean we either have it or not. But at any given moment, at any given situation, what's the level of our determining what thought, word, deed we allow ourselves to have, right? From our own side, regardless of anybody else knowing. The next one, Traumepa, Trail is this sense of consideration. The word means consideration. And to have healthy trail strong trail means that we have a very strong concern for the impact our actions or words will have on other beings, not just the one who's the object of our behavior, but those witnessing. So Trailya is this state of mind that's concerned with our impact on others. And at one level, that concern for impact is what they'll think of me. I'm not going to use harsh language, right? Foul words at donut day tomorrow, because other people, they'll think less highly of me because I think less highly of other people who curse and swear, right, in their common day conversation. So I'm not going to do it because I want them to like me. But deeper down, our sense of Trailya is, I want my impact on them to be uplifting. I don't really care how they think about me. I want my interaction with them to leave them feeling a little better about the world. So I'm going to choose my behavior carefully. And that, right, the subtlety of our Trailya grows as our spiritual practice gets deeper. So Trailmepa, this secondary mental affliction, is to not have this sense of consideration, not care about our impact on others. Of course, that's going to lead us to say and do things that are unkind, because who cares, right? I do what I need to do. I do what I want. I do what makes me safe. Who cares about others? Big ignorance going on. Ignorant liking and ignorant disliking, depending on how I react to any given situation. Abhidharma Kosha says, in the face of any non-virtue, one or the other of these two mental afflictions must be there, or else we would never do a non-virtue. Because the very Notsa and Trailya are concerned about my behavior and how it's going to impact others and myself in the moment and in the future and ultimately. Notsa Trailya are the virtuous states of mind. Notsa Mepa, Trailmepa are the non-virtuous states of mind, the mental afflictions. Next one, Chapa. Chapa means cover up. This one's hiding our faults. The one before Gyu was not admitting our faults, not even recognizing them. Chapa is knowing we've got them and covering them up. Geshe-la says, don't bother because people can tell that you're covering up. Other people, no, anyway, Chapa. The karma grows, the mental affliction karma grows of the mental affliction, like the wrong deed grows, whether we cover it up or not. Then the covering it up grows as well. So no reason to cover up our wrong deeds, especially covering it up from our own self, because that means we don't act in any way to negate it. So to recognize we've done a non-virtue out of a mental affliction, already there's some kind of, I know it was wrong, in order to want to cover it up. And then if when we say, I know it was wrong and I cover it up, then we're missing the opportunity to take that, I know it was wrong, let's call that regret, which is a virtue, and let's decide we're not going to do it again, and this, in that specific way, and let's find an antidote to apply. So by covering things up, we miss the opportunity to clean it up. And then they just grow. Remember the story of Lord Atisha. As soon as he had a negative thought, wait, time out, gets out his stupa, does his 4 powers. Like, he did not cover up to his own self, right? It doesn't mean you've got to uncover to your boss all the time, but to ourselves. I think we've said before, it's really helpful to have a purification partner to say out loud, right, what you are wanting to purify. You don't have to. And then to be a purification partner, it's an art. Right? It's a skill to be able to receive somebody's confession and let it be heard and then gone, and not remember it and not hold it over on them and not spread it around, right? We're just being the mirror for someone, and then you clean the mirror and it's done. Next one, Serna. There it is. Serna means stingy. Stingy means wanting to keep our material things, even our good qualities, our time, wanting to keep it for ourselves. Sort of that concern for, if I don't have it when I need it, I'll be in need and want, and that's unsafe. So we keep our things for our own use. Even in the face of somebody having a need right now, we keep it for ourselves in case we have a need later. It comes out of ignorant liking, of course, the misunderstanding of where having something to meet our needs actually comes from. It does not come from storing the thing in the closet for 20 years when somebody else could have used it. That does not mean that you go through your house and give away everything right now. The willingness to give means when somebody shows up and you recognize in that circumstances, maybe they could benefit from this thing I'm saving for me, offer it. They don't have to take it. That's not the point. The point isn't not having stuff. It's the clinging to it because I might need it. I have a whole set of homeopathic remedies, like a big collection of them. And I used to use them a lot for myself and others. And now I'm out of that, right? That aspect of my life. I haven't used one in a long, long time. And there it's taking up space. I've moved it multiple times. I'm waiting for someone to come along who's interested in or who practices homeopathy. And it's like, whoa, can I give this to you? But I'm not going to go just put it on the street and wait for somebody to pick it up. Right? Serna, it started out with Serna. I'm going to keep all of this stuff because maybe someday I'll need that remedy that's, I don't know, it's 40 or 30 years old and I haven't even opened it. I've never needed it. But you never know when. So keep it. It's a stinginess. Same keeping it now, waiting for that person to come along. Right? Anybody homeopathy? I have a whole set for you. Serna. Next one, Gyakpa. Gyakpa means conceited. I do remember being in junior high and high school. There was that group of kids, you know, the in crowd. They are so conceited. They think they have all these good qualities, right? My little group saying about that group, right? It's so natural human to compare. We're being stuck up about our own good qualities. So we do have good qualities. All of us have some good qualities. And then to think, yeah, my good qualities makes me better than somebody else. And they are my qualities in me. And guess what? Being stuck up about our own good qualities contributes to our losing those good qualities, or to other people not even being able to see those good qualities in us. Like, how can somebody not see me as so kind when I'm kind in me from me? Everybody has to see me as so kind. How dare that person say I'm selfish? But, right, that's how our misperceptions work. So Gyakpa, conceited about qualities that are temporary anyway. Next one, Mandepa. Mandepa means lack of faith. Depa is faith. Faith here means the admiration and trust in somebody or some ideal that's better than us, higher than us. And so typically faith means we believe in something that we can't quite confirm with our sense powers, to believe in something that we can't see, right? We think faith in God. In this tradition, we say faith means faith-based in logic. That once we've proven something to ourselves, even if it hasn't made that thing show up to our eyeballs, because we've proven it to ourselves through logic, we know that that thing we've proven is true. It does exist. Faith, not blind faith, but educated faith. This mental affliction is somehow this state of mind that doesn't see anything or anybody with admiration. For whatever reason, either because of something we see in them or something we don't see in them. So the mental affliction here would be, so suppose we're in a group, we're studying with a common teacher. I mean, let's use Geshe Michael as an example. And say many, many people in the group are, wow, you know, he's Buddha, he's so amazing, he doesn't do anything wrong, everything's right. And, you know, we're over here going, well, yeah, he's really smart, you know, and he seems to be able to do a whole lot of stuff, but, you know, he's human. He's got to go to the bathroom like I do, right? He gets hungry. He says funny things about people. Like, to Are we having a mental affliction because we don't see him the same way everybody sees him? Because the majority sees him in that way, he must really be that way? You see, that's all kinds of other mental afflictions going on. But to say, oh, the way I see him is the right way and everybody else is wrong, means that I've failed to try to apply this, the opposite of this, not having faith, to figure out where those good qualities that they see come from and where the lack of good qualities that I see come from, and to see what good qualities I do see and where those come from, right? The whole practice. When we fail to apply it, we have this lack of faith, is what it's trying to say. If our lack of faith in that situation, for example, would lead us to go to the people that have faith and say, yeah, but what about when he does this, 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 and this? Trying to change their minds to be like my mind. That's when this lack of faith is a mental affliction, because it leads us to doing something that's hurtful or unkind that will come back to hurt us later. Somebody interfering with some belief we have. And this one's a little tricky. Ma depa. Let's go on. Lelo. Lelo seems to be a Tibetan word that everybody knows. It means laziness. Lelo. Here it's the mental affliction of spiritual laziness, not having our virtue gathering activities as our priority. Really, it means I'd rather just hang out and waste time. Being attracted to time wasting. They call it a lack of joy in doing good things, kind things. If it's an effort to be kind, then at some point it's like, okay, I've got to rest, right? I've been working so hard at being kind. I need some rest. And then, well, I need more rest and more rest. Rest is our default and kindness is our effort. That's this mental affliction. As opposed to kindness is our default. And taking some rest is a little effort. In which case, do it. Take some time with your family where you're not focusing on doing kindness. You'll be doing kindness anyway, right? You're not going to go spend time with your family and then go stomp on bugs, you know? You're going to go out and have a nice, right, morally enjoyable time with your family. Rest appropriately, and then get back into the kindness business. To overrest is the mental affliction. Next one, bak mepa. Bak mepa means carelessness. Carelessness in our spiritual life. Carelessness in ordinary life is you're holding on to a jar of tomato sauce, a glass jar of tomato sauce. And you get distracted with 6 other things, and the tomato sauce jar slips out of your hand and it crashes and splashes tomato sauce all over your kitchen. We were just careless about holding tightly enough to the tomato sauce. Carelessness in life means we bump into somebody on the bus when we could have been more careful to avoid them. Carelessness in our spiritual life is losing our notsa. So our self-consideration and other consideration that propels us into old selfish behavior, that propels us to think, do, say something, right, that is unkind, will come back to hurt us, thinking that it will help us. So letting our hair down is this carelessness in our spiritual life. Alcohol has that effect on our mind, that we don't have that alert ability to choose between right and wrong, which is why it's prohibited by Lord Buddha, because it makes us stupid in that way. For some, more so than others, but for everybody. But there are other conditions. We can get that same kind of less heightened awareness of our behavior choice making when we're overly tired, when we're overly hungry, right? When we've got too much to do. When those situations where you know you're on your edge and somebody does one more thing that's irritating and blah, out it's going to come. We're losing our carefulness. We have bakmepa. Next one is jene. Jene means forgetfulness. Now that doesn't just mean like, oh, I can't remember where I put my keys. This forgetfulness is the losing focus. So in meditation, this is when we put our holy being in front of us as our meditation object. And next thing we know, what's in front of our mind is our upcoming meeting at work. And we're immersed in thinking about that. We've forgotten our object. Like, so not truly. We haven't forgotten. It's just not in our, it's not there anymore. In our outer life, this mental affliction is the forgetting the commitment we've made. So suppose you get up in the morning and it's like, today I'm going to really work on my anger. And I have a meeting with the boss, and I know the boss is going to blame me for something that I didn't do. And I'm going to try for the first 5 seconds of that conversation to understand where it's coming from and not yell back. After that first 5 seconds, anything goes. But for 5 seconds, I'm going to do it. Then you get in the meeting and you're involved in the meeting. And it happens. And the first 5 seconds go by. You've completely forgotten you were going to be like a bump on a log for that first 5 seconds. And you don't remember until after the meeting's over. And then you go, oh, nuts. I forgot. That is the mental affliction we're talking about here. We've made this commitment and then we just plain forget about it. Because it leaves us on our old automatic behavior. And our automatic behavior is the one that is willing to do unkindnesses to stop an unpleasantness or to get what we want on gross or subtle ways. Next one, No, time for a break. Let's get refreshed. You guys are quick break takers. I appreciate that. Okay, next one. Sheishin Mayimpa, Mayimpa. Anybody recognize the word Sheishin from meditation class? Drampa and Sheishin. Drampa is the opposite of this forgetfulness. It's that state of mind that can hold on to the object. Sheishin is the awareness in the sense of the, Geshe-la calls it the smoke alarm. The awareness that's checking the quality of the meditation. Once we're on the object, then Sheishin is saying, dullness, agitation, dullness, agitation, dullness, agitation. And then we, the meditator, right, listen to the Shin. Oh, dullness, yeah, fix it. Oh, agitation, yeah, fix it. That's this quality of the, we could call it the watcher, although it's a little different than that. To not have this watchfulness. Losing watchfulness is what Sheshem Mayimpa means. So in our off-cushion life, this watchfulness is like a little you sitting off on your left shoulder. That's a little bit ahead of you in terms of what's going on. Here comes the boss. They're going to blame you for something. Be on alert. Be ready. Because that old feeling about being hurt by being blamed is going to come up. And we're going to choose a different reaction, aren't we? Yeah, be on alert. The watchfulness can't make us act. It can't change, right, the feeling that comes up. But it's keen to be ready to help us choose a different reaction. It's this, it feels just a little bit, I want to say outside your body, but I don't mean it in a woo-woo kind of thing. This awareness that's watching so carefully what's going on and the normal impulse that's arising that allows me to say, no, not going to act like that. Or yes, I'm going to act like that. Because a lot of our impulses are good ones, right? We're here in a class like this because we have so much goodness inside us. And those goodnesses, we cultivate and add to them the wisdom, right? And we make progress. It tends to come over like nothing we've ever done has been right. We're so bad. We have so much work to do. It's like, no, we're really close. So Sheshan is this watchfulness that raises the alarm. Don't do that. Don't say that. To lose that watchfulness is this mental affliction, because then we're back on automatic pilot. Say this, do that, to get what I want, to avoid what I don't want. Number 18, mukpa. Mukpa means fog. You know, you're driving in the mountains and you come around the corner and you drive right into a bank of fog. It's like you drive right into a cloud. You can't see anything, right? It's kind of scary, but that foggy state of mind or foggy state of body. Because in that state of mind, we don't have the watchfulness. We do have the forgetfulness, and we fall right back into automatic pilot behavior. So just to have that dullness, that heaviness, it's a mental affliction because it'll trigger this unkind behavior of either body or mind. We get mukpa when we don't get enough sleep, when we overeat or undereat, or just eat the wrong things. We get mukpa from drinking alcohol. A lot of different circumstances where mukpa comes up. It's a mental affliction. It's a negative state of being because it puts us vulnerable to these other mental afflictions from which we misbehave. for most of us, that physical mukpa, it's almost inherent in our culture. We overwork, we underrest, we, physically feel threatened constantly. And it's very difficult to overcome that physical fatigue or exhaustion once it's set in. One of the other 3-year retreatants said to me, they went from a working life, full-time working life, to part-time working life during the 6 years of the Diamond Mountain training. But then getting that training was exhausting. And then they went into 3-year retreat. And they said it took them the first year in 3-year retreat of just sleeping whenever they needed to sleep, to get their physical body into the place where they could do the practices of retreat, to where they could meditate. A whole year of really conscientious rest and prayer and eating right. So it's not a small thing, this mukpa. Next one, namyang. Namyang. Sorry, there's a G on the end. It means distraction towards pleasant objects. Coming from wanting things ignorantly, the belief that those objects, the pleasure I get is coming from the objects. And so I focus on those objects and getting those objects, regardless of what I need to do to get them and keep them. Number 20, gupa. Gupa is scattering, like monkey mind. This and then that, attention to this, attention to that, attention to this. This inability to intentionally keep our mind focused on a single object, either in or out of meditation. It doesn't matter whether the object we're focused on is virtuous or not. It's a non-virtue to not be able to park our mind on something and keep it there at our own decision. It's a result of having too much going on. Doing all the multitasking that we do. The curious thing, though, is when we are Buddhas, we will have perfected multitasking, won't we? Like Buddha me and Buddha paradise emanates to help all beings. Seems to me that's the ultimate multitasking. And yet, to get to Buddhahood, multitasking is an obstacle because it keeps us going from here to there to here to there. So I don't know, I'm still cooking that one because it seems to me I should be mastering multitasking. And it seems to me that Geshe Michael is certainly demonstrating mastering multitasking. Right? He's exquisite in all that he accomplishes. And we can multitask single-pointedly. And that's where the contradiction seems to go. Like, ooh, what is that? So I'm still working on it. And I recognize that in meditation, this doing too many things outside of meditation makes my mind keep wanting to do many things inside of meditation. So it goes from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next in my meditation as well, which is my analytical meditation. It's supposed to do that. But then once it gets the aha, where it's supposed to park with full attention on the aha, it won't stay put. it keeps talking. It goes to another avenue. It just keeps up the habit that it's so good at. If this, then that, then that, then that, then that, then that, then that. Yeah, but shut up and just stop. Do you see it can't do it? So somewhere in there is this mental affliction, Gupa. And when I'm going beep, 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 and any one of those situations brings up a reaction in me that makes me want to act this way instead of that way. If my mind is going all over like this, then it doesn't have the power it needs to go, do this, not that, even though you want to do that. Because it's 6 things down the road already. Right? So Gupa leaves us all scattered, less able to clearly determine how I'm going to behave versus how my old ignorance is trying to make me behave. Gupa gets in the way. All right. So Master Shantideva is teaching all of these. Remember the situation. And he must be aware of his audience's mind's reactions to things, because he brings us this verse about hating our mental afflictions and being attached to our efforts to destroy them. And he uses those actual words: hating, make war, do battle, be attached to your effort to destroy them. And those are like fighting words. To have hatred, violence, to be attached. Master Shantideva, like that's the antithesis of what we're trying to become. You know, a being made of love doesn't hate anybody, doesn't make war on anybody, isn't attached to anything. What's going on here? So there's a verse in chapter 3 that says, I should therefore never turn back, even for a single moment, from the task of destroying the mental afflictions. I should get attached to them and learn to hate and make war. These kinds of mental afflictions act to destroy the mental afflictions, and so are not counted among them. And it's like, what does that mean? Fortunately, our commentary pulls it apart for us to help us understand. So somebody's, mind has said, wait a minute, if our task is to stop all those 84,000 mental afflictions, and in order to do so, we need to generate 2 new mental afflictions. Number 1, the hatred of my mental affliction. And number 2, the attachment to the effort to clear them. How are we ever going to stop all our mental afflictions if we have to grow 2 to kill 84,000? We still have those 2. This can't work, Master Shantideva. So Gyaltsab points out that in going to battle with an enemy, if we are a weaker being than the enemy, what's the likelihood that we are going to win? Now, true, David and Goliath, right? But me, a puny little old lady, is not going to go march into the arena with a big warrior and try to wield my sword to overcome that warrior, right? The guy will go, fuck, and I'll be gone. I have to be on the same level. So similarly with our mental afflictions, they are so powerful that our determination to fight them needs to be equally powerful. And our growing their antidotes. We want to be so attracted to applying the antidotes to the mental afflictions that we cling to them like we cling to our favorite stuff, right? Attachment. He is wanting us to have the same level of attachment to our new behaviors as we have to the ordinary things and behaviors that our ignorance keeps us attached to. However, when he says I should get attached to them, he means attached to the antidotes, of course, not to the mental afflictions themselves. And then when we use those two new mental afflictions, the absolute aversion to the mental afflictions and this powerful clinging to their antidote behaviors, those are mental afflictions that are being used on our path, as opposed to the mental afflictions that we need the path to overcome. So he says, by the time we've used these two mental afflictions to overcome the 84,000, what those two mental afflictions functions are for is gone. And so those two mental afflictions disappear. You don't need them anymore. They don't keep coming up because they only come up in the face of the old mental affliction. So as soon as you're successful in your battle, the two mental afflictions that are not mental afflictions go away with no further effort. Ah, what a relief. The point being, it takes the same amount of power against the enemy as the enemy has in order to overcome them. And where that power comes from is our understanding of emptiness and karma. It isn't really that we have to hate our hate as strongly as hate hates the boss. It's that we need to understand the emptiness of all that hate to have the power of the opposite behavior as the solution. So our weapon in our battle against our mental afflictions is this powerful unacceptability of letting those mental afflictions continue to guide our behavior, and our enjoyment in applying the antidotes, like the fun in trying, like a game. You know, when kids are playing a game, they do well and they don't do well, and it's fun either way because they're playing. So they don't go, oh, I went down the slide in all the wrong way, right? I just went down the slide, head first, feet first. I don't know. I just went down the slide and it was fun. Like that. Our weapons are these two things that sound like mental afflictions, but are not. And then once the fight is over, you put your weapons away. So somebody goes on to say, can we really get rid of all these mental afflictions once and for all? Or is it the case that once you clear them from your mind, they go hang out someplace else, in which case they could regroup and come back to get you, just like an army that you've defeated goes home, you go home, but 20 years later, there they are, trying to get your border again. Doggone it. Is it true that we can get rid of mental afflictions once and for all? And so Master Shantideva, he addresses it. He says, if it's true that all the other mental afflictions come out of ignorance, then if we can overcome or negate or shine the sun of wisdom on our ignorance, that once our ignorance is gone, all the other mental afflictions must be gone. Then, because we've removed ignorance from our mind, all other mental afflictions must be gone from our mind. But is it necessarily the case that all mental afflictions are gone from everywhere? Or can they come back to get me? So he says, actually, wait, remember that we are, this mind stream in this life has since beginningless time perceived my subject side, my me, object, any other, and the interaction between us as all having their own natures in them. And so they do that to me, right? And then I do that to them, and back and forth. And that is what propels my me and my life, me and my world. So with each next life, I'm born with those seeds that have within them the belief in things having their own nature. They're called the innate seeds to see things as self-existent. It's not until reaching nirvana, called the eighth Bodhisattva Bhumi for the Mahayana path, that we have destroyed those innate seeds enough that we can say there's no more ignorance, and so there are no more mental afflictions. We're not omniscient yet, but no more ignorance. And if there's no more ignorance, there can be no more mental afflictions. And they say once we reach that, it's forever. Because once all the innate seeds are gone, you're not replanting any innate seeds for self-existence. You stop replanting innate seeds for self-existence on the first Bodhisattva Bhumi, once we've seen emptiness directly. So, in all existing things, which includes mental afflictions, if you think about it, there's only 3 places that a thing can reside, like 3 categories of things. They're either mental things, and we've just said that the ignorance has been eliminated in the mind. There is material things, our outer world, and there are the sense powers through which our mind interacts with our outer world. So there are only 3 places that these mental afflictions could hang out. if we've cleared them from our mind, is it still possible for them to be in the material things? Or is it possible for them to be in the sense powers through which we interact with material things? Because if so, they could regroup and come back together. And if not, then by clearing them from your mental stream, you have cleared them from these other two places. And they can't ever come back. Ever, as in not just that life, but all lifetimes. Forever for that mind stream. So he gives us these two explanations, right? Like conclusions of logic, but he doesn't give us the logic. The first one is suksok yul lamine. Mine means to not stay. Miksok means I'm sorry, suksok. Suk means form. Sok means etc. So form and etc. meaning the things we see, the things we hear, the things we smell, the things we touch, the things we taste, even the things we think about, the thoughts. These are all part of our material world. Now I'll take it back. Thoughts not in material world. Let's not go there. Yul means object. So the objects of our material world, la mine, they don't stay there. Like he's given us the conclusion. No, they don't stay in objects of the outer world. How can we show that to ourselves that that's true? Gyaltsab asks in his commentary. He says, well, think about it. If an arhat who has by definition ceased all mental afflictions because they experienced emptiness directly and so went on to not replant ignorant seeds in their minds and went on to burn off all ignorant seeds that had been done before, if that arhat can still experience outer objects, colors and shapes that they see as trees and cars, right? Sounds, sights, etc. And the arhat is incapable of a mental affliction, then there can't be mental afflictions hanging out in the outer world. Can there? Because otherwise, an arhat could come across some tree that has a mental affliction inside it that would trigger a mental affliction in the arhat. We got to think about it. It's like, why does that prove anything? Sure, it could be in the tree, but the arhat doesn't react to it. Well, then, it isn't in the tree. If the tree can't affect the arhat's mind to give a mental affliction, then there's nothing mental affliction in the tree. Could the tree cause a mental affliction in me? Sure. My favorite pine tree dies and now I have to cut it down and it costs a lot and now I'm mad at the pine tree. But was the mental affliction in the pine tree? No, silly. It was my reaction. Second one, mik sok wang po la mine. Mik means the eye, meaning the eye, the power of the eye to perceive colors and shapes. Right? We've learned that the eyeball picks up colors and shapes. It sends the information to the eye consciousness, and the mind, the consciousness, takes those colors and shapes and says, oh, bowl of oatmeal. It says bowl of oatmeal in it from it, for ignorant mind. Wisdom mind goes, oh, bowl of oatmeal ripening, bowl of oatmeal happening. Same bowl of oatmeal or not, but different perception of its existence, its identity. Whether it's in the bowl of oatmeal or whether it's me putting on the bowl of oatmeal onto information. Yeah, then what about the information? Same. So does the mental affliction hang out in the eyeball? Like, that's as ridiculous as saying it's hanging out in the tree. But he doesn't say, look, arhats have eyeballs and they don't have mental afflictions. He uses a different reasoning. He says we can establish that mental afflictions can't hang out in our sense powers waiting to get us, because someone who's in the direct perception of emptiness, someone who's focusing on ultimate reality, which is the lack of self-nature in anything, including oneself, that being still has an I power, but they are at the moment of their direct perception of emptiness incapable of a mental affliction. So wait, when we have our direct perception of emptiness, we went into it as ignorant beings, still master at 84,000 mental afflictions. And as we are communing with ultimate reality, which is an absence, we can't have a mental affliction, right? There are no mental afflictions in the direct perception of emptiness because there's no awareness of subject-object interaction between happening, because we are in the no self nature of subject-object interaction between. It's not until we come out that we can go back to having mental afflictions. So Master Shantideva, or actually Gyaltsabje, is pointing out that because it's true that someone who actually still has mental afflictions, but isn't having any during the direct perception of emptiness, even though they have their optic nerve still doing its thing, they're unaware that the mental affliction can't be in the optic nerve, because otherwise you'd still have mental afflictions while you're in the direct perception of emptiness, because they'd still be going on. And again, it's like, how is that a proof? So we can hear it and write it down for your homework, but chew on it at some point. About what were those two arguments about arhat and in the direct perception of emptiness that prove that mental afflictions only come from ignorance? And when ignorance is ceased, either temporarily or permanently, mental afflictions all cease. And they can't hang out anywhere else. All right, so how do we do it then? If even after direct perception of emptiness, we come out and we go back to having 83,997 mental afflictions, because we've only lost 3 by way of our experience, how do we go about doing battle with those mental afflictions? Like, it seems like it's going to be really hard. So they simplify it in the same way that our morality gets simplified to the top 10 mental or non-virtuous behaviors, avoid those, do the opposite. And that's really all you need to train in, because it'll cover everything else. For how do we do battle with our 84,000 mental afflictions? Here. Practice the perfections. 6 perfections. Just 6 behaviors to train ourselves in, through which we stop doing those non-virtues and train ourselves in virtues. That doesn't sound so hard. The 6 perfections, they're called. The 6 paro tu chimpas in Tibetan. The 6 paramitas in Sanskrit. Mita means gone, went there. Para means over there, to the other side, they usually say. So paro to chimpa mirrors that. Chimpa means went or gone, and paro to means to the other side. Gone to the other side is the word that they use for perfection. And it sounds like, you go from United States over to Asia. You've gone across the ocean, you're at the other side. What we're talking about here, though, is going to the other side of our perception of things. The old side is the pan's identity is coming from it to me. Gone to the other side is perceiving this object's appearance and its emptiness, and it's the me perceiving it is coming out of this mind, right? Our whole identity has shifted to the opposite. Instead of everything this way, everything is this way. All right, gone to this side, the other side. But why are they called perfections? When we reach Buddhahood, these are done perfectly. Paro tu chimpa. But not until we reach Buddhahood are we doing these perfectly. That's discouraging. So I can't really do the 6 perfections until I'm Buddha? Why even try? It seems too far away. They also call them perfections because for those of us in training, these are the behaviors that will get us to doing those as perfections. The deeds are not different. The state of mind they're done with is perfected. So there's this term paro tu jinje. Jimpa was gone, done it, perfected. Jinje means will take us to perfection, take us to the other side. So the same deeds that are perfected is what gets us there. That's helpful. That means the activities we are learning to make as our default mode are the same activities we will do as Buddha me and Buddha paradise emanating. We don't have to learn new stuff when we're Buddhas. But it also says that when we reach Buddhahood, it's not like, okay, done, I retire. When we reach Buddhahood, we start our career. It's like, remember finishing your training and they do some kind of final ceremony and they go, okay, go do it. Go get a job, do what you do. Like that for Buddhahood. we reach Buddhahood and we have completed our training, we are now on our career as world savers, creators. Yeah. Paro tu chenje. So what are these behaviors that we are Buddhas in training to do? Hey, how come you went backwards? Here they are. Only 6. Come on, we can learn new 6 things. Jimpa, giving. Sultram, living ethically. Supa, patience, but meaning not getting angry in those situations where we would have. Tsundru, having a good time, giving, moral disciplining, not getting angry. Samten, meditative concentration. But we saw in the secondary mental afflictions, there's Samten on the cushion and Samten off the cushion. And Sharab, wisdom. Again, wisdom on the cushion, wisdom off the cushion. It's wisdom that influences us to choose these behaviors over the old habitual ones, that burns off the situation of reacting in the old way because we didn't, and plants goodness in our minds that helps our ability to deepen our intellectual wisdom, Shara, that helps us better choose our behaviors, that helps us grow the goodness, that will lead us to the ripening of the direct perception of emptiness, which then makes it such that the wisdom we apply to our giving, moral discipline, not getting angry and having fun, is burning off ignorance and planting more goodness that will move us through that path of habituation to the level where there's no more mental afflictions because we've either burned them off or damaged their seeds. And then we do the last little bit to clear out the obstacles to omniscience, right? Transforming into Buddha, us in Buddha paradise emanating. This is the method. These are the tools. These are the weapons against the enemies, all of them, right up to the enemy of ignorance, which is the head guy. You know, not really the general of the army. Like in these days, the general of the army doesn't actually go out and fight, right? He stays someplace and he gives directions. But in the old day, the king was in front of the army, wasn't he? If I understand history. And then if, heaven forbid, the first thing the enemy does is kill the king, like that takes care of the whole problem. You kill that one guy and the rest of the army goes, okay, fine. Ignorance is the king. But the army's job is to protect that king. So the enemy can't get at the king for a long time. And that's me and my life. I'm protecting my ignorance with all the army that I've got, because something in me is terrified that if my ignorance goes away, I will disappear. It's not true, but we believe it so strongly that we still fight after 30 years of thinking we know something. Okay, so giving means the willingness to give of ourselves. at the beginning level, we give material things. We give protection from fear. We give love. Even if we don't like somebody, we can love them. And we give Dharma, not necessarily formal classes, but we show by example. Jimpa. Ultimately, we give ourselves. Again, it's the willingness to give, not the actual giving. But you can't just sit home and say, I'm willing to give, but I'm not going to go out in my world and actually do it. Our willingness impulse will go from willingness to wanting. Like my very happiness is when I'm sharing something of me that I have, that I can do, something I know, my time. Jimpa, giving. Sultram, the ethical way of life, is avoiding those 10 non-virtues. And one of the ways we avoid the 10 non-virtues is flip them around and identify what their opposite is and have fun growing those qualities in ourselves. So if one of the non-virtues is to avoid killing, you know, how much opportunity do we have to kill something and not? Maybe it comes along once a day when we see a bug and we don't smash it. But if we say, okay, I'm going to learn to protect life, how many opportunities do we have to protect life all day? Well, like almost constantly. Fasten my seatbelt. Stop behind the limit line at the stop sign. Right? Be careful on my bicycle. Right? We can protect life much more often than avoid killing. Do you see? We don't take vows to do any of it. But now then we have this sort of game. We have this play. Where else can I protect life? Where else can I protect life? Just in our everyday doing. Ethical life. The willingness to avoid harming. The willingness to be more kind. Sipa. Not getting angry. Having patience. We'll talk about it more specifically. Has many levels. Tsundru, joyous effort, the having fun. Which when we have this understanding of how the process works, we really can get to the point where it's fun even to be in that circumstance that's painful. Because it's so clear to us that we're burning it off, we're challenging ourselves to behave in this other way, we're watching to see what the result of our other way seems to bring in the moment, and we're amused when it works, and we're amused when it doesn't work, and we know how to respond, right? We really could become this being that's just having a good time, whether things are going well or not. Again, Geshe Michael demonstrates this. I'm not there yet. Tsundru. Then meditation, the ability to concentrate. Sherab. Our understanding of the marriage of emptiness and karma. Growing into the direct perception of both of those. These are the activities that create the karmic energy to reach our enlightenment, technically even in this lifetime, if we did them with enough power. So if enlightenment is our goal, the end of suffering for everybody, not just me, then these new behaviors, we would decide they are my priority, my purpose in life. And then whatever I do as my career becomes the arena within which I practice my purpose. So we could be a school teacher, an engineer, a stockbroker, a mom, a factory worker, and we can be doing our sixth perfection training there, our Bodhisattva training there, just as effectively as giving up our outer life and going to live in a monastery or going to live in a cave. Probably more effectively, actually, because we have the places where our buttons get pushed, right? Our old behaviors come up. And without those opportunities, right, we would change in our mind, but not in real life, right? No such thing as real, but not in outer life. So what determines that the perfection of giving has been perfected, or any of them? Does it mean that once we've perfected our perfection of giving, there will be no more poverty in the world? And it's like, well, wait a minute. I believe there are Buddhas, at least one, but there's still poverty. And presumably even Buddha still sees poverty and sends their emanations to help. So did they not perfect giving? Or does perfected giving mean something else than the end of all poverty? Where does any given person's poverty come from? Does it come from Buddha's karma? Buddhas don't have karma. Does it come from Buddha's merit? Does it not come from Buddha's merit? We all have our own karmas. If I have the karma for poverty and you become Buddha tomorrow, my poverty doesn't disappear. You, Buddha, will emanate as anything I would need, but maybe my karma doesn't even let me see that. Right? I could have abundance all around me and not see it. Yeah? So same for all of them. They're a perfection within the mind stream of the being who has gone that way. And so we, as perfected, the six perfection beings, will spontaneously, effortlessly be what all beings need. Even if what somebody needs is for somebody to push their anger button so that they can learn to react differently. All right. So the state of mind that's totally willing to give up everything, our body, our possessions, our virtue, our very being, to others in ways that will help them, is the perfection. The training in that is the perfectionizing. It's the same deeds. So our task is to push ourselves a little bit in our efforts in each one of these. Not to push ourselves so far that we have regret. Like, don't be so inspired that you decide you're going to give your car to the next homeless person you meet. Because not very long after that, you'll regret having given your car away. Don't even give your car to a holy being, because you'll regret later giving your car away. But if it would be hard to give $5 to the beggar on the street, then give $5. If it would be too hard to give them 20, then don't give them 20. But don't get to the point where I can give them $1 and it's easy, so I'll always give $1. Like, what if you put your hand in your wallet to pull out the dollar and you pull out a 50 instead? Like, are you going to go ahead and hand it to them, or go, oh, no, that's too much? Right? It's fine to admit that. But then plan next time. I can't give 50, but maybe I could give 20. Push the edge, but not so far as regret. And that's the delicate, beautiful dance in training ourselves in these new behaviors. There's nobody watching but you, your own mind. Hey, the Buddhas that are watching, they love you so much. They are not judging you at all. They're there to support you. It's our own mind that's doing the judgment. Oh, that's too hard. I can't do that. I won't do that. I'll fail. I won't even try if you're like me. Or, yeah, I'm going to do it so great. And then later on, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. Find the happy medium and enjoy the process. We plant, 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 plant. And the ripening will take care of itself. When we're planting or giving moral discipline, etc., it doesn't really matter how they're going to ripen. However they ripen is going to be, wow, good. It's so much easier to simply be in plant mode. Not at first. It doesn't seem easier, but you'll see. Okay. So we're getting all of these guidelines and clues as to how to be bodhisattvas in our lives. We're not going to do it perfectly. And that's just fine. We know what to do when we get selfish again. All right. So that's our class 8. Remember that person we wanted to be able to help at the beginning of class? We've learned a lot, like getting a glimpse of that bigger picture of how we really can help them. And that's a great, great goodness. So please be happy with yourself. And think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone you can hold in your hand. Recall your own precious holy beings. See how happy they are with you. Feel your gratitude to them, your reliance upon them. Ask them to please stay close, to continue to guide you, help you, inspire you. And then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And they carry it with them right back into your heart. Feel them there, their love, their compassion, their wisdom. It feels so good, we want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it by the power of the goodness that we've just done. May all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one being, to share it with everyone you love, to share it with every existing being everywhere. See them all filled with loving kindness, filled with wisdom, and may it be so. Okay, so thank you again. I was looking at our schedule, and I had intended for us to go right into ACI 11 after Geshe Michael's teachings. But as it turns out, with my change in schedule, I can't start us until too late to get us finished before the Kyoto teachings. So I made the executive decision to push ACI 11 into January. So we won't start it until this group, January 9th, morning group, January 9th. So I'll put it in a schedule. But that's a long gap, right? So we'll do something else in November, something that doesn't have homeworks and stuff. So, and then in December, we always like to celebrate Jetsun Kappa Day, which is December 14th. And, I'll send out an announcement about whatever we're going to do for that. So I don't know, from October till January is too long to not see you. So we'll do something. But then if you're interested, mark your calendar for January. And we'll do 11, 12, and 13 probably next year. And then 14, 15 the year after, and go into 16, 17, 18. So 3 more years? Yikers. All right. So thank you so much. Stopping the recording.
Oh, stop the recording.
Yes, Chris?
You can stop the recording.
Okay.
This is